Imagine that you've just completed a project at work that consumed several weeks of your time. The project involved working together with a number of other people, and it all went quite well despite the many different personalities that were involved. Everyone made a contribution, and the result was very successful. Now you find out, however, that one member of the team has been singled out for special praise by your supervisor. For some reason, this person was called into the supervisor's office to receive a personal congratulation. How would you feel when you heard about this? More importantly, how would you respond? Or would you respond at all? An aggressive person, of course, would feel hostility toward the manager and to the person who was singled out for praise. There would be angry feelings, and there might also be harsh words at some point. A passive person, on the other hand, would probably refuse to admit that anything questionable had taken place and would certainly not take any action. The assertive response is somewhere between those two extremes. To see what this involves, we have to begin with a principle that will influence all of our discussions throughout this program. Our focus here will be primarily on assertiveness and people skills in a business setting, so we must consistently have a professional viewpoint as opposed to a personal one. In the situation we've just described, an assertive response involves knowing how you really feel and then finding a way to express those feelings in the context of a business environment. Suppose, for example, you make an appointment with the manager in question to air your feelings. Even if you're personally hurt by the fact that someone else seems to be getting too much credit for the work your whole group performed, it would be a mistake to bring those personal feelings into the discussion. This is a business setting, so keep the focus on business. No matter what you may think, it's going to sound like you're whining if you talk about your personal feelings. If you say something like, "I did just as much work as George and now he's getting all the credit," you'll sound very unprofessional. A more assertive approach would sound something like this. "I understand that you're pleased with George's work on the project, and I'm really glad to hear that because he made some important contributions. But there's one thing that concerns me. This was a group effort, and all of us devoted a significant amount of time to the project, including me. When the time comes for my performance review, I want to be sure that I get the same recognition that George does. This is really important to me. It would be gratifying, of course, if each of us could also receive a personal thank you, but my main concern is how this will affect my professional standing and my future in the organization." By focusing on the business-related aspects of this situation, as opposed to the emotional elements, a very useful effect is created, and it's one that we'll refer to a number of times in the program. You see, both the overly passive response and the overly aggressive one are essentially childlike behaviors. In any business setting, the person who seems most grown up always comes out best. If you pout and whine, or if you throw a tantrum, you'll be on the losing end of the encounter. Assertiveness is the adult response between the two poles of childish acting out. For example, assertiveness is an antidote to fear, shyness, passivity, and even anger. Assertiveness means speaking up, making reasonable requests, and generally insisting that your rights be respected as a significant, equal human being. And all of those are adult behaviors. Assertiveness is also the ability to express negative emotions without personalizing the problem. An assertive person knows how to question, to disagree, and even to refuse without seeming childish. Assertiveness is being able to question authority from a positive perspective. It's the power to ask why, not just to rebel, but in order to assume responsibility for making things better. For the balance of this session, we'll look at 3 specific steps you can follow to implement assertiveness in virtually any setting, but especially in the business environment that is our primary focus here. These 3 steps will be the foundation of all the assertive strategies we'll be discussing in these sessions, so please take them to heart. We'll get started in just a moment.